You're not worthless. You were just broken too early. You were taught to stop trying. But today, that changes. He was an Olympic champion at 23, homeless at 30. But what destroyed him is exactly what will set you free in the next 15 minutes. Look at this man. In the grey streets of Lyon, David Kern drags his 38 years like an invisible burden. His hunched back, his sagging shoulders. You know that look, don't you? That look of someone who has given up. But David, 15 years ago, was a machine. A high-level swimmer, a body sculpted by excellence, muscles that knew victory by heart. How does a champion destined for the summit become this shadow that avoids people's gaze? This story, my friends, might be yours. It's the story of a prison that no one can see. A prison called learned helplessness. Stay until the end of the video. I'll give you the key to break free from it. But first, let me take you to that specific day. The day David's life shattered in 3 races. Olympic Pool, Paris. The stands explode with spectators. 15,000 people came to see their champion, David Kern, the favorite. In the locker rooms, the other swimmers observe him with that mixture of respect and envy reserved for future winners. But there, as he steps onto that starting block, David feels something strange. A weight, there, on his chest, as if his lungs forgot how to breathe. The signal sounds. He dives, but his body, his muscles, everything disobeys him. As if 15 years of training had just been erased. Sixth out of 8 swimmers, eliminated in the qualifications. You know what he told himself? It's just an accident, if only. 2nd race, 7th place. 3rd race, last. Last with a time he hadn't posted since he was 16. The media were merciless. David Kern, the promise that drowned. The failure of a champion. The great collapse. These words weren't simply ink on paper. They became mental labels. Labels that stick to your skin and never come off. In the following months, David tries everything. New coaches, mental preparation, medical follow-up. Nothing. Failure again. Always. And there, something breaks in his brain. Psychologists call it a defeatist schema. Basically, no matter what he does, he will fail. One morning in 2012, David packs his equipment in a box. That gesture, that simple gesture, was a capitulation to life itself. And there, my friends, crystallizes what Martin Seligman discovered in the 60s, learned helplessness. To understand what happens to David, let me tell you the most disturbing story I know. Imagine a 6-ton elephant, a mountain of muscle and power, tied by a simple jute rope. This rope, it barely weighs 50 grams. You could cut it with children's scissors. The elephant could break it with a simple movement of its leg. But it never does. Why? This is where it gets interesting. Go back 25 years. Gajendra was just a 200-kilo baby elephant tied to a banana tree with the famous jute rope. But he pulls with all his strength. Day after day, he pulls. The rope burns his leg. From pulling without success, he gets tired, exhausted, until that morning when he stops trying. Today, Gajendra weighs 6 tons. He could drag a truck, but he remains prisoner of a 50-gram rope. The famous rope that had immobilized him 25 years earlier. Not because he can't, but because he no longer believes he can do it. He had learned through trying that there was no possibility of breaking free from the rope's grip. David is Gajendra the elephant, his Olympic defeat. Is his little 50-gram rope that keeps him prisoner. Like Gajendra, you've learned to stay small in the face of trivial obstacles. Your cage isn't physical, it's mental. November 2023. Anonymous Cafe in Lyon. David absent-mindedly flips through a forgotten magazine, and there, a photo strikes him like lightning. A man in a wheelchair crossing the finish line of an Ironman, one of the most difficult triathlons in the world. The magazine title? The Man Who Refused the Cage. And David wonders, if this man deprived of the use of his legs can accomplish the impossible, what really prevents me from acting? This question, this simple question, hits him like a slap. And there, the ground gives way beneath his feet. This is what we call a corrective experience. Information so powerful that it forces your brain to reconsider its beliefs. Marc Fontaine, the man in the photo, had developed a method, the 3 R's, to overcome this mental prison. First R, recognize learned helplessness as mental conditioning, not reality. Second R, reframe each failure as information, not condemnation. And the third R, retry differently, starting small. David had taken seriously this information revealed in an interview by Marc Fontaine. He goes to the pool and starts again with small tournaments where he plans to apply Marc's instructions. He has a panic attack mid-race. He exits the pool in front of 200 spectators. The public humiliation is total. A month later, it's been 3 months since he swam, using excuses of back pain, being too busy. He finds excuses. 2 months later, his performances are catastrophic. He's 30 seconds slower than before his break. Weeks later, he tries again. This time, he forgets his swimming goggles systematically. He arrives late every time. We're talking about unconscious sabotage. In reality, he sabotages himself without knowing it. But it's a way for him to flee the pain of failure. 3 months later, he tries again. He fails again. He tells himself, I'm 40 years old. What's the point? I'll never be champion. Internally, he said to himself, Marc Fontaine was wrong. The 3 R's are bullshit. I'm finished. Period. But here's what he didn't know. Relapses aren't failures. They are proof that the brain is fighting against change. Imagine your brain as a GPS. For 15 years, it learned one route. Effort equals failure. When you change routes, it recalculates again and again. It's normal. It's even healthy. Don't forget that we are creatures of habit, and if we change abruptly, our brain doesn't like it and wants to return to its old habits. So it takes time to change. He decides to meet Marc in person. He tells him all his failures, basically his story. And Marc tells him, each relapse brings you closer to your freedom, because each time you question your old beliefs a little more. He meditated deeply, sitting on his bed about Marc's words. So he starts again with small competitions to gain confidence. David finishes 4th out of 8. 6 months later, 2nd. A year later, he wins his first competition in 16 years. Paris 2024. David Kern, at 41, qualified for the Olympic Games. In the media, they continue the propaganda about his incompetence. The public booed him. Despite everything, he manages to qualify for the 200-meter butterfly final. While the public was divided between doubt and mockery, the man who had packed his equipment in a box was again on the starting block. Pressure, bad memories. It was an emotional yo-yo in his head. But as soon as the starting whistle sounded, he had plunged into the water like a predator, ready to devour its prey. After 10 seconds underwater, all the other participants had resurfaced and were swimming on the surface. But not David, so much so that people wondered if he hadn't drowned. Suddenly we see him. He had already covered half the pool. The stunned audience, the commentators were speechless. David Kern was swimming as if his life depended on it. Before everyone realized it, he had finished the first lap. He was on the return. The fired-up crowd was shouting his name. He had become that monster again. He had just arrived when immediately he got out of the water to proclaim his joy. It's a standing ovation for his performance. The media celebrated while the competitors were still in the pool. At the awards ceremony, he climbs onto the Olympic podium, legs trembling. He is congratulated. Gold medal. Olympic Games champion. This medal, he will say in tears, doesn't reward my victory. It rewards my 47 relapses. He experienced media overexposure for his exceptional journey. He even met a young woman who became the mother of his little boy. The lessons learned by David had changed him profoundly. Consequently, he applied the 3 R's to all areas of his life. Today, David no longer competes in swimming, but he helps other athletes navigate their own storms, not by promising miracles, but by showing them that relapses are part of the journey. Does David's story seem unreal to you? Let me tell you about those who really did it. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school team for lack of talent. 6 NBA titles later. Serena Williams, health problems, postpartum depression. Returned to the top at 37. Michael Phelps, severe depression, alcoholism, arrest. Then, 28 Olympic medals. Novak Djokovic, chronic quitter, nicknamed the mental fragile. Today, 24 Grand Slams. Tiger Woods, personal scandal, addictions, 4 back surgeries. Career finished according to all experts. Masters 2019, he wins again. Muhammad Ali, banned 3 years at the peak of his career, comes back and becomes legend. Naomi Osaka, depression, social anxiety, withdrawal from Roland Garros. I can't play anymore, she says. A few months later, world #1 again. And the craziest, Erik Weihenmayer, blind from birth, first blind person to climb Everest, then the 7 summits, then whitewater kayaking champion. A study of 200 Olympic champions reveals that 89% experienced at least one major episode of learned helplessness. It's not the exception, it's the rule. You see the pattern? All experienced learned helplessness. All believed it was over. All were wrong. Now, let's talk about you. Where is your invisible cage? That business you don't dare launch. That person you don't dare approach. That talent you keep secret. David told me something overwhelming. The real question isn't whether we are helpless. The real question is, what really prevents us from trying again, differently? David Kern, Olympic gold medalist at 40. Michael Jordan, 6-time NBA champion after being refused in high school. All prove the same thing to us. Learned helplessness is just an illusion. The difference between those who stay in their cage and those who get out? One thing, they accepted that relapses are part of the journey to greatness. David's story isn't that of a miracle champion. It's that of a man who understood that true strength is born in the fall, not in victory. So where is your podium? What gold medal is waiting for you to stop believing in your weakness? And if you still hear that voice saying, "You'll never make it," remember David, clutching his gold medal in tears, and tell it, "Watch me closely. I'm going to prove you wrong." If this story touched you, don't hesitate to share it. Maybe you'll free someone from their invisible cage. See you soon, and dare to try again.